Hey guys, Jeremy here once again. Welcome back to another video from No Coast Comics. This time we're going to be talking about just how to submit your books to CGC from start to finish. So if you've been thinking about sending your books in, this is the video for you. So the very first step is you need to select what books you want to submit. Now, something to keep in mind is the tiers are organized both by age of the comic and by value. So to submit under the modern tier, it needs to have a value of $200 or under, and it needs to be printed between 1975 and today. So if you got something 1974, it has to go to a different tier. Most of what I do is modern. Sometimes I'll do some in the value and economy. Every once in a while, if you have a really big book, it needs to go up to express or walkthrough. That's kind of the first thing to figure out, because every different tier you have, there's an extra $5 submission invoice cost for that tier, and then it also usually ships completely separately back to you, just because each one of those tiers has a separate turnaround time. So that's something to keep in mind. So you can submit up to 25 books per tier at one time. So I usually do 25 moderns at a time. I wait until I have that many that I want to submit, just to make it worth your money. Otherwise you're spending more money per book when you break it down, when you factor in the shipping costs and all that. Second thing you want to do is bag and board your books if they're not for some reason. Probably already have them bagged and boarded. If they are, they're probably good enough. I do like to use something a little nicer just to further help the books keep their condition if you're sending in stuff that's super high grade. I usually use the Gerber My Lights 2 for the bags, and then they have a full back backing board. If you buy them by the 1 to 200 at a time, they end up being about 60 some cents a piece, I think. So when you factor that in, it's not a huge jump in the price, just to further protect the books during shipment. It's probably overkill. I don't always do it, but I do that sometimes. While we're on the topic of bagging and boarding your books and prepping for CGC, one other thing I like to do just to make it easier on the CGC crew is I put a little tab here in the tape when I close it. So that way when they go to open the book to actually grade it, they can just pull up on this tab, and it's super easy for them. I'm sure they spend countless hours, out of the year just trying to safely open books because people tape them all sorts of ways. So that's just one thing I like to do to further, move books along the process, because of the more time they're spending trying to open comics, the less time they have to actually grade said comics. So just try to make it easy on the guys. So now that we've selected and prepped the books we're going to be sending into CGC, let's go and enter them in on the website. So the first thing we're going to do is go and sign up for an account. Now I have a link in my description of this video and most of my videos you can click on that will take you directly to it. It's a small way to support the channel. I get $10 for every person that signs up and actually completes an order within the first 30 days of signing up. So I'm not getting rich off this. It's just one way that you can say thank you if you want to start submitting and really enjoy my content. So we're going to click on that link. And when it opens up, it'll ask you which type of membership you want to do. Now, with the free membership, you can only submit directly at shows that you go to. So in person, when CGC is actually set up at a convention, you can submit and you get a number that you can track it online and all that stuff. So there's that. And you also get free access to the online resources. Now the second tier, I don't really recommend, just because you don't get any credit back from purchasing this and you get a very tiny discount. So it's the associate tier, $25 a year. You get full submission privileges you can mail in. You get free grader's notes, which you can get those on any of the other tiers now after that too. And then you get a free small shipping kit for new members. Now you only get a 5% off CGC grading tier on this one. So it's not a very substantial discount, and you don't get any credit. Now, the premium tier is the one that I do. It's $149 a year, and then on the renewal, it's actually $129 a year. So every year that you renew it, it's actually $20 less than that first year. So you're basically making money if you're planning on grading anyway. So this one has all of the benefits of the other tiers, except you get a 10% off on their grading services, and you get a $150 credit. So technically you're already coming out $1 ahead. And again, on the renewal, at least the way they have been doing it up until this point, is it's only $129. So you're making $21 right there right off the bat. And then you can use that $150 anyway with CGC, whether all in one order, you're gonna split it up, whatever. Now the elite tier, if you really want to get into it and start sending tons of books, like I think I did the math that you would have to send in 6 or 7 orders of 25 modern books on the premium tier to make it worth it to get the elite tier to start getting a better discount, because now you get 15% off the tiers and $150 credit once again. I don't know what other exclusive offers. Oh, you get 20% off additional graders notes, like on books that you did not submit, because books prior to May 2012, they had different rules and stuff with the graders notes. But again, I do the premium tier. That's the one I'd recommend if you really want to maximize your money, and it's not that much to try your first order. So that's the one I do. So I'm just gonna back out and log in here so we can look at the rest of the process. So once you've signed up and you're ready to actually enter the books, you want to go to submit and then submission forms. And then down here you'll see all of the different submission forms they have. Now we're going to do comics and magazines for CGC. So we'll hit this online form right here. And now it opens up. And we'll enter our books one by one. So I'm just going to do one book here so you guys can kind of see the process of going through it. So we're just going to do this Death Made Black gold variant. So we want to do, we're going to be submitting a comic. We're going to mail it into the headquarters. We're not doing show drop off or on-site grading or private signing or anything like that. So mail into headquarters. We want to have grading done. I don't want to have any pressing done on this book. You certainly could. That adds a lot of time and some extra money to the process, but we're just going to do grading. You don't need any of these other services they offer. So we've got mail-in headquarters and grading selected. Hit next. We only have one quantity of this book. Now when you start typing in this field, it'll just show you all of the books that match whatever you're doing here. So there's all these Death Made books. Ours is Death Made Black. The publisher was Image Valiant Comics. It was a joint venture they did together. Now, the number on this issue, there's no number. And it was September of 1993. Now, sometimes if you'll enter in some books here, like Spider-Man, for example, there's, multiple volumes. Like issue 3 will have a bunch of different volumes. So you'll need to figure out which year that volume was from. So a little bit of internet searching, it'll make it pretty easy. And then for the variant here, this is the gold edition. Now, for the declared value, anything up to $200 can go under the modern tier. And that value, basically what it does is it essentially ensures it up to that value while it's in the hands of CGC. So if, say it's worth $150 and you put it's worth, $40 and then something happens to that book, which is very rare, but if something does happen, they're only gonna pay out to the point that you enter in here. So there's really no sense in doing anything under the $200 just to kind of cover yourself in case the market blows up and something happens with the book. From the time that you send it in to when they send it back to you, you're covered at least. I mean, chances are they wouldn't pay you that much, but it's better to have it in there than not. I mean, I see some people that do, $10, $20 and, stuff rarely, if ever, happens in the hands of CGC, but just kind of something to think about. So now for the grading tier, we're going to select modern. It shows you here 20 business days, and then it shows you, 1975 to present, each comic valued at $200 or less. Now you can, if you want to spend more money per book, you can enter in Fast Track. Now it adds another 50% of the cost for the modern tier, but it also cuts the turnaround time down in half. So it goes from 20 business days down to 10 business days. Now, we don't want to do this for this submission, so we'll leave that. And then here's all the other submission tiers that you can have, depending on the year of the book and the type. Now, if you do submit a book that is older than 1975, it'll just have modern grayed out, and then it'll only show you the tiers that you can select based on the value that you put in. Like say it's worth $300 and you entered in 300, then you can no longer do value. You have to do economy or higher. And just depending how quick you want the book back, all the way up to the walkthrough services, like for those super high-end issues, which I've never done any walkthrough. I've done, a couple on Express and Standard, but that's a rarity. Most of my stuff is modern. So then we'll hit add to cart. And then it just kicks you back to enter in another comic from that tier. So you just go through that whole process. You can click at your card here at any time and see all the books that you've entered in. Now you can go back and edit it, you can trash it. So when you're all finished and you have 25 up in here, there will be a little checkbox down the bottom that you can do pre-screen. So what that'll do is it'll actually make it so you can say, if, say you only want 9.8s or 9.6s or whatever. So you hit that box and then it'll ask you what grade you want to screen them to. And any book that is under whatever grade that you choose, they'll send back to you. I think they charge you, I think it's $5 or maybe $7. I have to check on that, but there's a reject fee. So, they don't encapsulate it and actually charge you the $18 or $20 before the discount if that book does not hit whatever grade that you specify. So that's one way to save some money if you were only wanting a certain grade or higher and you don't really feel confident yet in your grading skills. I don't pre-screen, some people like to do it. So once that's all ready, we'll hit checkout. And then here's where you enter in your return shipping address. So you want to make sure this is correct because this is where they're going to send it back to you. And then your phone number and your email. And then hit next. Now this return method, these shipping costs here are really low because it's only for one book. USPS is going to be registered mail, and that is going to be what you want to use most likely. I mean, it's entirely up to you if you don't have a collectibles insurance policy. Now, I do have one of those just to cover my books. So I usually use the FedEx. It's usually quickest, cheapest. It seems like, the handling of the FedEx shipments is pretty nice. I haven't had any major damages yet, so that's usually what I go with. But again, it's entirely up to you. And if you don't have a collectibles insurance policy, I would highly recommend doing the USPS registered mail. Now that is slower, takes probably 2 to 3 times as long to get back to you, especially with the COVID-19 delays going on right now. It could be even longer, but when I started out, I was doing registered mail. So then at that point, once you've selected your shipping option, it'll have you enter in your payment information, your billing address, and then you'll continue to actually check out. Now your credit card will not be charged until they actually receive your books and enter them into the system, and they're a little along in the grading process. It's usually about a week or so once they actually get the package until it shows up in the system as received. And then depending on the tier you chose, it may take another 3-4 weeks or so, depending on the current turnaround time to actually get those graded and shipped back to you. Now what's nice is once you have it sent in, you can start checking in on the tracking on it. So we can see my recent submissions right here of all the ones. So right now they have one for me that's been received, and they received it on August 31st, which today is September 23rd, and this was a modern submission. So any day now I'm expecting it to be moved to scheduled for grading. Then after scheduled for grading, it goes to grading and quality control. And then after that, it goes to finalized / imaged / shipped. So what that means is it's either been shipped, and at that point you can actually see the grades on your submission if you want to. I usually don't. I like to be surprised. And then they'll also email you photos of the books if you pay that extra $5 per book to get a professional photo made of it. I've only done that a couple times on some of my nicer books. Not something I really do that often. I'm actually working on a video right now of how to photograph CGC slabs without reflections and stuff, so that'll be a separate video. I may put that up here when I actually get that done, so if you want to check that one out. And yeah, so CGC will get your books, it'll go through the process. You can check on this CGC submission tracking page at any time as long as you have that paid account, and you can watch it through the process. I think that covers about everything for entering the books themselves. So you'll print out that packing slip you get and then include that with your books. And now I'm going to show you guys how to effectively pack up your books for shipping to CGC. Now with your paid membership on that premium tier, you do get a free large shipping kit that they've recently come out with. I think it was just this last year they came out with that you pretty much get all of the same stuff that I'm going to show you guys that I use to send into CGC. It's just this isn't the actual kit. It's just very similar to what you might get. So let's talk about that. So now that we have the books already, we have printed out our packing list from the CGC website with all the books we're sending in order. We want to make sure to put those books in the order that's on the list when we go to this next step, so it's easy on the people at CGC and does not cause any more delays. So for this step, you'll need the books already. You need some packing tape. You need a box, which this one that we have here is just reused from a previous shipment. It's a 4 by 12 by 18. You can use any box around that size. I think like even a 15 by 10 by 5 would work, you know, somewhere. So it's the size of the comic or slightly, well, we want it larger than the comic. So essentially what's happening is we're wrapping up all these books and then we're adding some extra packing material. So these are really helpful, and these are what I like to use. They're sort of like a T folder. Gemini Mailers makes these. Runs about $100 or so to get 150 of these mailers, so not too bad. And you can, I mean, mail books in these just as it is, but for the extra protection, I like to put the books into these and then wrap it up and then in that larger box. So you'll need the box. If you want to use these, great. If not, you definitely need some other way to protect your books. Some pieces of cardboard, just, you know, taped in the middle works fine, but this is the optimal way to do it, I think. This is essentially what you get from the shipping kits that you get from CGC. So the T-mailers kind of come like this, and they have all kinds of perforations here. So first things first, you want to bend this one in like that. And we'll do that. So since we're doing 25 books, usually split this up into 3 separate T folders, and then we wrap those all up and then make sure it's not going to move around much in the box. So we've got, count out, what, about 8 books per thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. So we've got our 8 books, and then we just flip the top one here so it's around. So this step here is technically kind of optional. I like to keep them all together so there's even less movement around. So I use these bags that the CGC slabs actually come in, and just wrap up each bundle here by about like the 9. And then we get a little piece of tape, tab it over so the people at CGC can open it up nice and easily and make it kind of nice and tight there. And then you have the little pad there that they can open up nice and easy, right there. And then once that's in, we just fold this in, fold that in, get this one, and then that one like that. And we're gonna tab these pieces of tape again. Put one down here, and then one on this other end. So that's nice and secure for shipment. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing for the rest of the books. So now we've got our 3 boxes all done. We taped our packing slip just right on top there so it's nice and easy to find. Now we're just gonna wrap everything up. So I have some bubble wrap here already sectioned out. I'm just gonna do one loop around to try to keep these 3 together as nicely as possible. Try to make it as tight as you can, so that hopefully they don't really move around. So we have this now with bubble wrap. We're gonna get our box, put it directly in the box. Now you may have to add more bubble wrap around it just to kind of fill the space. And basically I'm just gonna tear out some chunks here and start filling in the box so that there's very minimal movement on all 4 sides. We really don't want this bundle to get any more damage in shipment than it has to, because that'll hurt the grade basically. So rolling some of this bubble wrap up, and again you just want to fill in everything around the edges. Gonna grab some more bubble wrap. And any kind of bubble wrap works. I like the stuff that it's like a 1/2 inch wide is what it is, I think. Just seems to fill the spaces better. You could also use, you know, crumpled up newsprint, really anything that will help kind of cushion that void, is what they call it, the void space. That there's nothing in it and we just don't want stuff to bounce around. So have a little more in there. And that should definitely hold. So usually what I do is seal it up, kind of shake it around, make sure nothing's moving. So now that we have our books safely packed in here, we're going to tape up the box and then go online to purchase and print our shipping label to get the books to CGC in Sarasota, Florida. Now you can use any shipping provider that you prefer, USPS, UPS, FedEx, any way to get the books to CGC in Sarasota, Florida. I like to use a website that's called pirateship.com, and they offer you pretty much the lowest rates that I could find anywhere. They don't have any referral programs, they don't have any way that they get those, you know, prices cheaper at all. It's just they offer the rock bottom pricing. I don't know how they do it, but it's a great site. I've been using it for shipping for a while. So around here, you will get the address to ship to CGC, which I think I send so much stuff that it's all saved in here for me. So as of this video, it's going to PO Box 4738, Sarasota, Florida, and there's a zip code, and then I will blur out my physical address here. But now you'll choose actually how much your box weighs. So if you don't have an actual postal scale, the easy thing you can do is just use a bathroom scale, and you might have to round up by a pound or so, but so like you basically step on your bathroom scale with the package, and then whatever that weighs, write that down, then step on a scale again without the package. So then you subtract your weight from your weight and the box. That gives you the weight of the box. In this case, our box is, what I say, it was 18 by 15 by 4, I want to say. It was around there somewhere. And usually ends up being around, mine I think ended up being about 7-8 pounds, but again, whatever yours ends up being, that's what you want to use. Then we'll hit get rates. And for my zip code, it'll pop up and say it's going to cost us about $22 to ship it, which is less than the $27 on retail. Now, these prices, sometimes they're comparable to what you pay on PayPal, sometimes they're way less. It kind of depends, you know, how much weight you have, I guess, and how big the box is. If your box is over a certain size, you're going to have some oversized costs involved in that. So, I mean, you want to factor that in as well. It's something that I even struggle with. You just learn more as you go. If you're shipping a small amount of books, sometimes you can use like a medium flat rate box, which right now that can ship, I think, for about $13 to $15. So that's an option as well. So you'll just go through, you'll purchase the label, you'll print that out, and then you'll tape it onto the box. And then you send it into CGC. That's as easy as it is. So to get it to CGC, once it's in their hands, in about a week, you'll see in that tracking that it switches over to received, and then it's just a waiting game. So that's the rundown of how to submit your books to CGC. I hope that was informative for some people. I've had some questions about it, so just wanted to make a in-depth walkthrough of all the steps of the process. Now, in no way is this the only way to, you know, pack your books, to, you know, ship. You can use other providers. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm not saying this is the best way. This is just the way that I do things, and I have had great results with, you know, not any damaged books, either to CGC or coming back, you know, knock on wood. But yeah, just what I usually do. So hopefully that was helpful. If this video was helpful and you plan on submitting to CGC, I really appreciate if you use the referral link down below. I get $10 on your first order if you place that order within 30 days of signing up. I'm not getting rich off this by any means, but if it was helpful, I really appreciate it. That's all for this one, guys. If you did find it informative, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and hit that bell notification. That last one lets you know when I post new content. Have a lot of videos in the hopper right now. I'm always buying collections, always getting mail calls. Have a whole list of stuff planned, so stick around. There's going to be a lot more content coming, and thanks for being along for the ride. I'll see you guys next time.